For many years, history books told a simple story about Africa. They spoke of independence and new nations finding their way. But recently, secret documents have been opened to the public. These papers, once hidden away in CIA vaults, tell a very different story. They reveal a hidden world of secret plots, spies, and coups. These weren't just random events, they were carefully planned actions by powerful countries. The goal was to control Africa's future, often without anyone knowing who was really pulling the strings. It's a story that changes how we see the past, showing that the path to freedom was often secretly shaped by outside hands. So, why did the CIA suddenly become so interested in Africa? It all goes back to the Cold War. After World War II, the world was divided into two big camps, the United States and the Soviet Union. When African nations began gaining their independence in the 1950s and 1960s, both superpowers saw a new battlefield. They worried that these new countries might join the other side. For the US, the fear was that African leaders might embrace communism. This fear drove them to do whatever it took to keep these nations aligned with the West, even if it meant interfering with their newly won sovereignty. This wasn't just about political ideas, it was also about resources. Africa is incredibly rich in valuable minerals like uranium, cobalt, and diamonds. During the Cold War, these resources were vital for building weapons and new technology. The United States and its allies wanted to make sure they had access to these materials, not the Soviets. So, they kept a close watch on any new leader who seemed too independent or too friendly with the East. This economic interest mixed with political fear created a dangerous situation, where the destinies of entire nations could be decided in secret meetings in Washington or Brussels. The strategy was often to support leaders who were friendly to Western interests, no matter how they governed their own people. If a popular leader was elected but seemed like he might nationalize resources or lean toward socialism, he became a target. The CIA and other Western intelligence agencies would look for ways to weaken him. They might fund his political opponents, spread negative stories about him, or, in the most extreme cases, plan to remove him from power entirely. This created a pattern of instability that has affected many African countries for decades, a hidden legacy of the global power struggle. One of the most tragic examples of this interference is the story of Patrice Lumumba. In 1960, he became the first democratically elected Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Congo had just gained independence from Belgium, and Lumumba was a powerful voice for true African freedom. He wanted his country to control its own vast mineral wealth, and not be a puppet for foreign powers. He spoke with passion and pride, dreaming of a united and prosperous Congo. His vision was inspiring to many Africans, but it made powerful people in the West very nervous. The United States and Belgium saw Lumumba as a threat. They worried he was too close to the Soviet Union and might cut off their access to the Congo's resources, especially the uranium needed for nuclear weapons. So they decided he had to go. Recently declassified CIA documents and the 2024 documentary soundtrack to a coup d'etat have laid this plot bare. The plan wasn't just to oppose him politically, it was to remove him completely. President Dwight D. Eisenhower himself reportedly authorized the CIA to get rid of Lumumba, setting in motion a dark chain of events. The CIA developed several plans to eliminate him. One infamous plot involved sending a scientist to the Congo with a lethal virus that could be put on Lumumba's toothbrush. While that specific plan was never carried out, the intention was clear. The CIA, along with Belgian intelligence, actively supported his rivals and worked to create chaos in the country. They funded soldiers who mutinied against him and backed a secessionist movement in the mineral-rich Katanga province. Lumumba was systematically isolated, his power stripped away piece by piece. In the end, Lumumba was captured by forces loyal to his rival, Joseph Désiré Mobutu, who was receiving support from the West. In January 1961, Lumumba was brutally tortured and executed with the complicity of Belgian officers. His death was a devastating blow to the dream of a truly independent Africa. It sent a clear and chilling message to other African leaders. If you challenge Western interests, you could pay the ultimate price. The man who came to power after him, Mobutu, would rule as a dictator for over 30 years, supported by the very same countries that helped topple Lumumba. Now, how do you run a secret operation in a foreign country without everyone noticing? Sometimes you hide it behind something everyone loves: music. The US State Department and the CIA came up with a brilliant plan. They sent some of America's most famous black jazz musicians on goodwill tours across Africa. Artists like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Nina Simone became cultural ambassadors. They were sent to showcase the best of American culture and democracy. It was a perfect cover story, a way to win the hearts and minds of people in newly independent nations. These musicians were celebrated wherever they went. They played to huge, enthusiastic crowds from Ghana to the Congo. For the African audiences, it was a chance to see their heroes, icons of black success and creativity. For the artists themselves, it was often a deeply moving experience, a chance to connect with their ancestral homeland. However, most of them had no idea that their tours were being used for another purpose. Unbeknownst to them, their presence provided a convenient distraction and cover for CIA agents operating in the same cities. The 2024 documentary Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat reveals this shocking connection. While Louis Armstrong was preparing for his concert in the Congo, CIA agents were in the same city, busy with their plot against Patrice Lumumba. The jazz tours created an atmosphere of cultural exchange and friendship, while behind the scenes a darker political game was being played. It highlights a painful irony. Black artists were used to promote an image of American freedom and equality abroad, at the very same time they were fighting against racism and segregation back home. When the truth about Lumumba's murder came out, it sparked outrage. Some of the artists and activists who had championed African independence felt betrayed. At the United Nations, protesters including the great singer Abbey Lincoln and the writer Maya Angelou disrupted a Security Council meeting shouting "murderers" in the chamber. They understood that Lumumba's death wasn't just a political event, it was a deep wound. The Belgian government has since officially apologized for its role, but the story remains a powerful reminder of how culture itself can be weaponized in the world of espionage. The story of these secret plots is not just ancient history, its effects are still felt across Africa today. The overthrow of leaders like Lumumba set a dangerous precedent. It showed that a nation's democratic choice could be overturned by powerful foreign interests. This legacy created deep mistrust towards the West, a suspicion that lingers in the political discourse of many African countries. When a leader is overthrown or a country faces instability, people often wonder if outside forces are secretly involved, because history has shown them that it's possible. This history shapes the decisions of modern African leaders. This pattern of instability has continued, though the players and politics have shifted. Coups and attempted coups remain a reality on the continent. For example, in Burkina Faso, the military government announced in April 2025 that it had stopped a major coup plot. The government claimed that soldiers were working with outside groups to destabilize the country. While the details are different from the Cold War era, the situation shows how fragile political situations can be. Today, the competition is not just between the US and Russia, but involves many global and regional powers, all with their own interests in Africa's future. Leaders in Africa today operate in a complex world. They have to manage the needs of their people while navigating the interests of powerful countries like the United States, China, Russia, and former colonial powers like France. They are keenly aware of the history of foreign intervention. This knowledge influences their alliances and their policies. Some have chosen to move away from traditional Western partners and build new relationships, as seen in countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, which have recently strengthened ties with Russia. It's a direct response to a history they feel has not always served their best interests. Ultimately, unveiling these secret plots is crucial for understanding Africa's journey. It explains why some nations struggled with dictatorships for decades and why the path to stable democracy has been so difficult. It's a reminder that a country's history is not just what happens inside its borders, but is often shaped by powerful forces from the outside. For Africa, acknowledging this painful past is a necessary step toward building a future where the continent's destiny is truly in its own hands, free from the secret shadows of foreign interference.